Limitless Wrestling fans. John Alba here with the czar of Limitless Wrestling, Mr. Randy Carver. A couple weeks off, back at it now. Things have just been a little busy at the Limitless Wrestling headquarters as the Vacationland Cup approaches. And I've been running around as well inside the world of pro wrestling. As a matter of fact, just as we record this, Randy, just hours after AEW's Fighter Fest show, that I'll tell you what, I saw a lot of potential for some future ideas for Limitless Wrestling in that festival.
Oh yeah,
I
what
did.
Do you got?
Well, you know, I'm not much of a gamer, but I was amazed by how many people went to the gaming convention and then to the wrestling show.
Really?
So that says to me that there's certainly room for crossover there. I think even at a more local level.
I think so too. A lot of the wrestlers too are like big into video games. So I've always thought that the concept of like having some kind of festival where the wrestlers can actually face fans in different video games would be really cool. Chris Dickinson's actually talked to me about that before. So definitely something that we're looking at. I know there's a couple bars in like the Portland area that really specialize in some good video games. So maybe we can get in touch with them.
That's just a cool little idea there. And it went very well, I thought. Have you had a chance to see any of the show?
I've seen a lot of clips. I didn't get a chance to sit down and watch it, but I do think I'm going to sit down and watch it today.
Gotcha. Well, I definitely advise doing that because there was some stuff I really liked and there was some stuff I didn't like. But I got to say this, man. Like, when I go to these AEW shows, it's like I'm watching a Limitless Wrestling show. And I mean that
dude.
When I say, no, and this is not just me just, tugging our own chain here. I really feel like the formula that they are using for setting up these shows, rundown wise, and like how they're producing the physical show itself, is so similar to how Limitless puts on its shows. And I even brought that up in the press conference after about how they managed to pack so much action in without that much cooldown, and the crowd stayed engaged the entire way. And
it's just the fact that there's no bullshit. You know, it's just it's a professional wrestling product, and I think there are companies around the United States who are doing that very well right now. I'd like to think we're one of them, but like they're focusing on the wrestling product, which is something different than what you've been seeing really in the mainstream.
So for me, it was really cool seeing MJF and Darby Allin on that stage yesterday.
Yeah, same. It still blows my mind because when we first started booking both those guys, they were relative unknowns to the US or to the world. Now these guys are getting recognized as like global superstars, and it's really cool because just both those guys have put in a tremendous amount of work. And Private Party too, I'd like to comment on, because Isaiah Cassidy's second match ever was in Limitless Wrestling. Mark Quinn, I've been on shows with him since 2013. We broke in around the same time, and he was coming up to IWE a lot in Maine. So I'm just so stoked for these guys, because these are guys who have really put in the work. They've put in the time, and they're getting to do it on a national stage now, which is incredible, and they're doing a fucking good job at it.
Yeah, I want to comment on Private Party real quick. They were one of the standout acts on that show, and they do such a good job at garnering empathy from a crowd. And when they hit their comebacks, man, they had everyone going nuts.
Yeah.
And Mark Quinn is just, he is a freaking
incredible.
He is an athlete.
Incredible. I legitimately thought that he was getting signed to like Impact's X Division a couple of years ago, and I was super stoked about that because as a singles guy too, and this is not a dig on Isaiah Cassidy, but just because Quinn has been around longer and I've seen him in so much single stuff, he's just so fucking good, man. It's incredible how good he is, and I'm very excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be big time stars in that tag team division. And Max, the Limitless Wrestling champion, he stole the show. He stole the show on national television, and I think that's going to be a trend we're going to see week to week once they hit
I
national
can't
TV.
wait to watch it.
And in the post-show press conference, I'm not going to put the audio on here because there's just far too many expletives. But you can go look it up on YouTube if you would like. I was wise and opted not to ask a question to Max because I felt like it would not have ended well.
No, I think he was upset last night, man.
Yeah,
his boy is in a tough spot.
Well, and he didn't win. So see, I can't say he lost because he made very clear that he did not lose after that match.
But he didn't win.
But he did not win. Sorry, Max, if you're listening. But nonetheless, he is the Limitless Wrestling champion, and seeing him on that stage, going in there, just I think at the end of the day, you're going to be able to say that Limitless helped really give a lot of these guys a platform where they could own their craft and before they made it big. And I think that Max may be the definitive talent when all is said and done. That's a really bold statement, but I think he might be the definitive talent. That's one of those kind of homegrown guys that at the end of the day just becomes one of the biggest stars in the world. I really do believe that. And what is he, 23 years old?
Yeah, he's super young, and he's definitely on his way there. And it's really a testament to the work that he's put in. And now, he doesn't have much left on the bucket list. It was pretty cool to see. I think it was last week he was announced for PWG's upcoming show, which is wild because that's something I remember. I messaged him about it, and he, totally did not respond to me. But
of course not.
2016, I met Max after. I think it was a Beyond Studio taping in North Andover, Massachusetts. I went to do commentary, and we were chilling at Chipotle, and we were talking about goals and shit, and I didn't really know about MJF because you obviously hear that he has an attitude problem, but that was one of the things he said from the start was PWG was a big goal for him, and one of the things that he really wanted to do on the independents, and it's pretty cool that now before the run on the independents is over for MJF that he's getting to do that. As much as I dislike the guy, it's a testament to the work he's put in because PWG has the best in the world and he's going. Yeah,
no doubt about it. So really cool stuff there. But let's dig into business because a lot of it involves Max when all is said and done as well. This is, man, we are quickly approaching the Vacationland Cup, aren't we?
Yeah, it's under 2 weeks away now.
So I much like we did last year, probably one of our highest download episodes of the Limitless Wrestling Podcast was bracketology. And next week, we're going to give you that bracketology. We're going to break down the Vacationland Cup bracket. So, get your notes ready and when you fill yours out. But this year, instead of last year where we just kind of gave you a little, hey, good job, you got your perfect bracket or you did well. This year, there's going to be some incentive if you fill out a good bracket, isn't there?
Yeah, so we're actually doing a Vacationland Cup bracket contest for the first time. This is going to be through Facebook and Twitter, and it's going to be 1 week long. So starting this coming Wednesday, we're going to drop a clean bracket on Facebook, a clean bracket on Twitter. What you can do is you can take that bracket, you can fill it out with your winners. It's going to be, as I said, 1 week. So it's going to go this coming Wednesday to Wednesday, July 10th. And that'll be the cutoff date. So how you submit these was going to be a post on Facebook where we post the clean bracket. If you're going to post it on Facebook, throw your bracket right in the comment section of that post. If you're going to put it on Twitter, tag us in the tweet, use the hashtag MyVLC. Anything that we get within that week span will be valid. And the winner, if anybody gets everything correct, which means you got to get the 4 winners and you got to get the winner of the cup and then elimination order. So it's pretty deep. It's going to be a challenge for people to get this all correct, but that's the fun. If you do get your bracket correct and it's submitted in time, you're going to get a Vacationland Cup sticker package with 5 stickers that were not released to the public. They're just for this contest alone. So
you have to not only get the bracket right, but you also have to pick the elimination order in the championship match correctly.
You do, yes. You don't have to choose. You don't have to choose who eliminated them, but you do have to have the elimination order. Obviously, like if nobody gets this right and it comes down to they got everything and the winner right, we're gonna choose who got it the most right. If that makes any sense.
Yes.
But
okay.
we will have a winner of some sort in this contest. It's not going to be something that we're going to look over because of the elimination order. But I think maybe they'll get some extra stuff if someone gets this completely correct with the elimination order.
Is Warren Buffett going to pay them like $1 million? You know how every year during March Madness, it's like, if you get a perfect bracket, Warren Buffett will pay off all your housing loans.
Well, shit, man. I'll submit some brackets. So. No, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. But I do think that, if someone gets this completely right, we will throw in some extra stuff. We're going to have a couple winners because I want to give out some sticker packages. So anyone who is very, very close to right on this will be getting something. But definitely submit your brackets again. Facebook.com/Limitless Wrestling. We're going to have a post up on Wednesday. You can submit right below, or Twitter. Tag us with the hashtag MyVLC, and that is how you can play.
I love it. It's a great way to engage the fans, and I think that this is, hey, it's win-win for the fans. You get it right, you get some stickers. If you get it wrong, well, then you're proven wrong, and there's some surprises. So
yeah,
it's a good way to look at the Vacationland Cup, and we continue our preview of the Vacationland Cup today. Before next week's bracketology, not making any picks here or anything, but we have the entire tournament is completely laid out. So Sean Spears is facing Anthony Green, and how's that for a first-round matchup? Sean Spears, the talk of the pro wrestling world today as we tape this. He levied a harsh chair shot to Cody on the AEW show.
What did you think about that?
Well, so at John Alba on Twitter, you can find my pretty extensive coverage of this, including what the Young Bucks and Tony Khan had to say. My take on it, and I'm not telling AEW or any promotion for that matter what they should or shouldn't do, but, and it was the reason why I asked the Young Bucks this in the first place, we are 12 years since the Chris Benoit murders. We know what CTE is. We know the effects of headshots. They are very real. They have lasting implications. And whether the chair was quote unquote gimmicked or not, is, to make it safe or safer. I don't think it's ever going to truly be safe, but safer. To me, it's just not a great optic. And again, not just AEW. If I were running my own promotion, no headshots with any objects. Just my take on that. I've seen headshots in Limitless. What are your thoughts?
I was surprised by it because it was an unprotected headshot.
It was brutal. It was brutal.
Like you said, knowing everything that we know now about concussions and CTE, that's a scary risk to take as a performer, and a scary risk to have somebody, do in your company. But I don't know. Like the Bucks said, I think you asked the question. They said, this was something that Cody, was, cool with, obviously. But I don't know. It was vicious, man. It was vicious. And that's not something, we want these performers to be around for a while. Especially a guy like Cody Rhodes, who is an influencer in this business. So it was very vicious and just, I guess, unexpected for me.
Well, what about in terms of Limitless? Is that something you've had conversations with talent as to what is okay, what is not? Because if you allow it for one thing, well, then you run the risk of setting a precedent.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is something that you talk about, especially heading into any matches that are, any hardcore stipulation. Usually talk with everybody and just make sure, okay, we're on the same page about this, that, and the other thing. Just so, you make sure, because there are people who want to try crazy ass shit, and that's cool, but what lasting implications will that have? And I think, especially being, in a promoter's shoes, that's something that you should always be aware of if it's on your shows. And I think you should always just look out for, is just making sure that, obviously you want the fans to be entertained, but you want to make sure that all the performers on your show are protected and they're not gonna get in any trouble, health wise or, anything of that matter after doing a match.
So you don't want to take a hard position either way as to where you stand on that?
See, okay, so I don't love fucking headshots with a chair. However, like, I don't know, plastic chairs, that's kind of different, I would say. Um, I don't know. It's tough. It's like a gray area where it's like I don't love chair shots to the head, and that would be something that I would discourage on Limitless shows.
I'm not even just saying chair shots. Look, people whip out cookie trays and pots, and I see every which way. I just don't think. I don't care if it's a plastic chair, a metal chair. I think we're beyond the age of where we need that kind of thing. I don't think it. I guess when it comes to pro wrestling, for me, I always say, well, did this add something to the match? And like the headshot from Shawn Spears on Cody, I think that would have been just as impactful if he just walloped him in the back. Like, I don't think it would have been any less impactful. The whole story was Shawn Spears was turning on Cody. Yeah, Seth Rollins walloped Roman Reigns in the back. He didn't hit him in the head. And that is still talked about as one of the craziest turns in modern pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So, that to me, that's how I stand on it, especially having covered athletes and knowing how real this stuff is. I just don't see why it's worth putting yourself at risk.
That's my big worry. And I think, I do think on the flip side, this is something that got a lot of people talking, but I don't know if it's always for the right way.
Right.
And I guess that's the chance that you take with something like that, with doing something like that in such a big spot on such a big show. I guess that's the risk you take, is like, okay, will people either love this or are they going to hate it and rip it apart on the internet? Either way, people are talking. I don't know what stance they're taking on that, but it does have a lot of people talking.
Yeah. Well, you just don't want anything to go wrong, like apparently it did here. But anyway, that's just a digression, and I'm glad we had that conversation regarding Limitless. But Shawn Spears is facing the retrosexual Anthony Green. I'm
going to make sure there's no chairs in the region, too, for this match.
Okay, that's good. Big month for Anthony Green, huh?
Yeah, man. Like, it's incredible. As we're taping this today, he's wrestling Tyler Breeze in like an hour, which is fucking crazy. And then we look ahead to the day after the Vacationland Cup. Evolve is going to be live on the WWE Network, and Anthony Green's on that show as well. This is the time in someone's career where you really see the momentum start to pick up, and I think a lot of us have been waiting for that for Anthony Green for a while now, because especially the fans at Limitless Wrestling, I think, have been witness to how fucking good Anthony Green is for a long time. And now, with him being signed to Evolve, getting on a national stage, now wrestling WWE superstar Tyler Breeze, and then in a couple weeks on the network, a lot of people are going to see what we've seen in Anthony Green for a long time. So it's a lot going on for him, but I hope for his sake that his mind is still right with the Vacationland Cup, and he knows he's got to come get the job done.
And don't forget about AR Fox either. He's in there too. And where's AR been? We haven't seen him in Limitless in a while.
AR Fox is actually almost in the Vacationland Cup. Unfortunately, we had some scheduling issues, so he was not. But you'll be seeing him soon in a Limitless ring, definitely before the year's done.
Good to hear. It's been a pretty quiet year from him in 2019 in Limitless, so that's good to hear. But Shawn Spears also, he's talking the wrestling world, like I said, right now. What kind of match are you expecting out of these two? Is it going to be... You got two guys who've got pretty big egos. I suspect probably a lot of one-upsmanship.
I could see that. And I'm not sure, like, Shawn Spears, he's coming back to the, independent scene. I say back. I don't really know if he had a huge run before, but now he's coming back as like an independent wrestling superstar right now for these couple months that he's, technically on the independents. So I've said it before. It's really cool when we get the chance to work with some former WWE talent, especially when they were there for a while, to see, really what they're going to bring to the independent scene. And from what I've seen right now, Shawn Spears has been very successful in the independents too, racking up a lot of wins. And I know he wants to come to the Vacationland Cup, upset Anthony Green, which I think, looking at this tournament, it's tough to say that Shawn Spears defeating anybody would be an upset, but Anthony Green being kind of the golden boy of Limitless Wrestling, That would be a huge upset for Sean Spears, and I think he's going to want to come play spoiler alert here.
I would agree with that. Eli Everfly versus JT Dunn.
I'm very excited for this one. I think this match puts both guys in a newer element that they haven't been in Limitless Wrestling, where they're both wrestling a guy who's somewhat close to their size. Obviously, Eli Everfly is kind of the small guy in most matches he's in. I would say almost every match. And JT Dunn riding quite a high right now after elbowing MJF at the end of last show. But speaking of spoiler alerts, Eli Everfly, I think, wants to end JT Dunn's little dream of winning 2 in a row really early and move on to the finals. And I think that could be a bracket buster right there.
I would agree with that totally. Eli Everfly, one of the most exciting guys in pro wrestling today, and totally could pull off something there. Ace Romero versus Brad Hollister. When you announced the Vacationland Cup, I'm not sure Brad Hollister was a name people would be expecting to see in it.
No, and I was somewhat surprised at that, because especially when we posted the video that Brad Hollister sent in last week, a lot of people were surprised and taken aback by it. But since Brad's been back in Limitless Wrestling, he's been untouchable. We saw in the scramble in March, he made his return, getting a win. There were some very talented people in that scramble, like Pat Buck, Josh Briggs, just to name a couple. And then he defeats Christian Casanova in May. And some may say it's due to the distraction of Kevin Blackwood, but regardless, that's 2 straight wins for Brad Hollister. Now he has the balls to call out one of the pillars of Limitless Wrestling in Ace Romero, and that's a huge move. And that's going to be a huge match. And I'm not sure if he can throw around Ace Romero as easy as he's been throwing around some of the guys in Limitless Wrestling, but I'm very eager to see.
And then the big blow-off match, Kevin Blackwood and Christian Casanova.
This one's going to lead off. So everybody get there early, go. Because Casanova Blackwood will kick off the Vacationland Cup. And this is one that I'm just excited to sit at ringside and watch this one, because Kevin, a lot of people know the story. Those who don't, Kevin was involved in a gnarly car accident earlier this year, at the very beginning of this year. That put him out of action. And we'll talk about this a little more in depth in a minute, but that put him out of action for a long time. This is his in-ring return on July 12th, and he's going one-on-one with Christian Casanova. Christian has been a guy who's trying to rid Limitless Wrestling of Kevin Blackwood ever since Kevin Blackwood rolled up Austin Theory at the last Vacationland Cup a year ago, causing some embarrassment to Stokely Hathaway's dream team. So now we finally get the one-on-one rematch that we've been waiting for. Kevin Blackwood, Christian Casanova, the winner advances to the finals of the Vacationland Cup.
And Christian Casanova's been there before.
He has. Last year, made it to the finals of the Vacationland Cup. Came very close to actually pinning JT Dunn a couple times, who went on to win the tournament. So Christian knows what it tastes like. He's looking to get back this year.
MSP versus the Workhorsemen. I think this one's going to be real fun. Good to see the Workhorsemen in Limitless, and who better to put them up against than MSP?
Yeah, the Workhorsemen, another couple guys who have been really showing what they can do on a national stage and evolve. I'm a big fan of James Drake and Anthony Henry, JD Drake, I should say, the blue collar badass, his new nickname. I love that. They've had a couple wars with MSP before. This is not a first time ever match, but this is the first time it's ever been in Limitless. And this was actually supposed to be a triple threat tag with the Butcher and the Blade, but unfortunately Andy Williams had some scheduling issues. His band found out earlier this week that Every Time I Die's tour schedule was extended. So Andy Williams will not be at the Vacationland Cup. We have set a return date with the Butcher and the Blade, so it won't be long until they're back in Limitless, because, to be honest, Mainstay Posse versus Butcher and the Blade is a match that I really want to do. So be looking for that.
Yeah, but MSP also, keep in mind, coming off probably their biggest win as a tag team.
Who's that?
Or pardon me. Sorry about that. I said they're coming off, one of their biggest matches as a tag team.
Yes.
Against the New Heart Foundation, obviously. So
yeah, and it's been a wild year for MSP, because they had the big win against the Shook Crew. They go and wrestle the New Heart Foundation. And they've been really grinding in the New England area recently, debuting at a lot of new companies. And, they said from the beginning, when they finally got the win against Free to Think last September, they ridded Limitless Wrestling of Joey Eastman. They said they want the best tag teams and trios in the world. And in my opinion, I think the Workhorsemen are one of the best tag teams in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But that not the only match on this card that you'll see these showcase spots, because also Skylar back in action against Chris Statlander. And again, we kind of talked about this where you kind of figured Chris Statlander would be hated at this point, but now all of a sudden Limitless has just embraced her, and Skylar, who used to be one of the true favorites in Limitless, is now finding herself on the other side of the spectrum.
It's weird how the tables have turned, and I honestly think everyone really wanted to love Chris Statlander for a long time, but she just kept beating the shit out of Ashley Vox, and they just didn't want that. So now that she's not beating the shit out of Ashley Vox, people love Chris Statlander, and she got a big win against her trainer Pat Buck in May at Hooked on a Friedman, and then cameras tried to catch up with her backstage, and Skylar was not happy about that because she wasn't getting her camera time after defeating Victoria. So we saw this match come together on the Limitless Wrestling YouTube. It was announced official a couple weeks ago. The Galaxy's Greatest Alien, Chris Statlander versus Skylar. And if you want a little sneak peek of what you may be seeing, these two actually fought for the Blitzkrieg Bedlam Championship a couple weeks ago in Blitzkrieg Pro. It's available on independentwrestling.tv if you want to check that out, because it was a war. So I'm very excited for this one.
And then the big announcement that I know you've really wanted to get to, Daniel Garcia is on his way back. He was part of that Buffalo Boys car accident. He's back.
This is incredible because, and I did want to talk about this for a second, because this was a situation that hit, really close to home, because those are guys who have been around Limitless Wrestling for over a year now. And it was insane because, we had a lot of big plans, honestly, looking, this accident happened at the beginning of January. We had a lot of stuff in place, and it's just, it takes you out of that wrestling bubble and realizes, wow, shit can happen at any time. And it made me appreciate not only them, but just everybody we work with in the grand scheme of Limitless Wrestling, because wrestlers are fucking driving insane amount of hours weekend by weekend, doing it for, not a lot of money, or just fucking sometimes no money. And sometimes, because Daniel Garcia, for instance, came to, I think, 2 or 3 Limitless shows unbooked, unprompted, just to show face and just to fucking be there, which is incredible. So hats off to Daniel Garcia for fucking, he just really grinded since this accident, because when you hear someone's broke their femur and technically broke both legs, you think, man, this person may never wrestle again. And if they don't, I totally fucking get it. I totally understand why. And nope, he's going to be back in 6 months, which is fucking incredible. And he's already back. It's not like this is his return on the 12th. Last night, he won the ESW Heavyweight Championship, defeating Brandon Thurston. That match and that championship, I know, mean a lot to Daniel Garcia. So just incredible to see. Incredible to see him back so quick. And I'm honestly getting goosebumps right now thinking about him, making his Limitless return, because the dude is an exceptional talent for being so young, and is just focused. He's motivated, and he's got a lot going for him, and I'm very excited to see what we can do with him in Limitless Wrestling moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. It's great news all around. People are going to be happy about it. And just, again, one of the good dudes. And that's more important than anything else. Just one of the good dudes who you really have to just, you have to have just an immense amount of respect for. So really happy for him, and hope big things are ahead all the way around. So just a couple more things you wanted to get into. We like to peel back the curtain when we can and explain some of the issues that do arise in promoting a pro wrestling show. We had talked a lot about the stuff that was going on with the Thick Boys and Puff, and there are some changes.
Yes, unfortunately, Andy Williams is not the only scheduling issue we had. John Silver will not be there on the 12th, so the denim vest match for the Thick Boys has been postponed.
Not to say that it's off. Doesn't mean it's off.
What's
just,
that?
It doesn't mean it's off. Just postponed.
No, postponed. This was one that is just, this is a bad situation that kind of arose, and it's just something that happened scheduling wise. CZW where John Silver is the world champion. They had a valued member of their crew unfortunately pass away recently. Lyle Williams, who was a excellent photographer for CZW for a number of years, unfortunately passed away a couple weeks back. They set a memorial show for the same night, Friday the 12th in Philly. And with Silver being the world champion and being, a longtime member of CZW, he does have that obligation to be there, and I would expect him to want to be there. So it's a totally understandable situation. It's a bummer for our fans, but I know people will understand in the circumstances. And we're wishing that CZW crew the best, because I can't imagine, losing someone who has been on your crew for legitimately over 10 years. It's got to be a huge blow to everybody there. So thoughts are with them, and we will have that Denim Vest match with the Thick Boys eventually. And we're getting some dates set, because I think there's going to be an influx of more Limitless Wrestling shows coming soon, especially heading into next year. So you'll have your chances to see the Thick Boys for sure.
Yeah, and that's good, because for as much as I may have differences with Puff, it is good to see them in a Limitless Wrestling ring.
By the way, Puff and Jay Freddy will still be there.
Oh.
Yeah. We're not kicking them to the curb just because the match is off, but there are some changes to the card right now, and I honestly, we're in the process of changing the card right now, because both of these scheduling conflicts happened very quickly, and we had to change some shit up. So be looking, because there will be some new announcements coming in probably this week, and we'll also be announcing Daniel Garcia's match, which is a banger.
Excellent stuff. Anything else you want to hit on, Randy?
Nothing in particular. Definitely be checking out youtube.com/Limitless Wrestling this week. We just had 2 shows at the Locker Mess Festival in Biddeford. So I'm editing all that stuff right now.
Okay, well then if you're opening it up, I'll talk about it. How about my boy Mac Daniels picking up a win there?
Yeah. He got a win, but then he lost to Jivin' Jimmy, Maine legend.
Well, that's just because you allow for unsafe working conditions, and a man of his size should not be competing in there with an absolute prestigious physique like Mac Daniels. So
yeah. No, but I think he did very well.
I hope they didn't have a pose off, because no one wants to see Jivin' Jimmy pose.
I don't know, man. I don't know. People like Jivin' Jimmy. I got a tweet. Somebody tagged me in, and they're like, "Hey, I want to see Jivin' Jimmy versus Puff," and I think they said they want to see that for 60 minutes. Don't laugh. Get out of here.
And that's where we bring back time limit draws to Limitless Wrestling.
No, I was very impressed with Mac Daniels. I was actually very impressed with all the dojo students who were on those events. Jacob Drifter, Doug Weiser, Dave Dyer were on the events. Big Raph. Saw a lot of good stuff throughout the weekend, too. Nico Silva was very impressive. DL Hurst had 2 bangers throughout the weekend. Loved everything from the Shook crew. The Platinum Honeys had a very good weekend. It was a fun weekend all around, and I say this to anyone when we do these fair festival shows. Definitely come out and check them out. And if you were there and you're listening to this podcast, hit me up with a tweet at LW Maine. Let me know who you liked or who you didn't like. That's what I'm very interested in, because we're able to use these fair and festival shows as kind of a little test run for people in Limitless Wrestling to kind of see, okay, what does this person bring to the table? We did some really fun matches like Anthony Green and Mark Sterling. DL Hurst wrestled Nico Silva. There was a ton of stuff. MSP versus Sass and Fury was wicked fun on night 1. So definitely let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. And these are a lot of people who I think within the next, I would say 4 to 6 months, you'll see debuting in Limitless Wrestling. So very cool to do these shows. And I think people really enjoy it once the videos are up too. So be looking for that.
Excellent stuff there. Anything else you'd like to add, Randy?
I'm all good, man.
All right. Well, we are back at it next week with bracketology. Get your brackets in now. Again, you can head over to Limitless Wrestling on Facebook. They will post the blank bracket on Wednesday, and get yours. Again, I know you can't post it right now, but start thinking about it and then post it when it's up. You can send it on Twitter, tag at LWMain, hashtag MyVLC, or just post it into the comments section on Facebook. and you might get some goodies out of it if you do pretty darn well. We'll see you then.